This tutorial you will build web application for user and admin registration and login. Both admin and user should use the same login page and redirect to different URL. What you will learn in this tutorial: you will learn how to build Spring MVC web application using Spring Boot. You will learn how to configure Spring Security in Spring Boot. You will learn how to develop end-to-end registration application and custom login features. You will learn how Spring Security application with MySQL database works. You will learn how Spring Security logout features work, using TeamLeaf attribute to display information, implementing AuthenticationSuccessHandler to redirect user and admin to different URL, using authourity method for access permission to user and admin pages, using principal interface to display authenticated user information on TeamLeaf. Registration and login with Spring Boot, Spring Security, TeamLeaf, and Hibernate. User and admin registration channel to database open successful registration. Here is the registration form, which include full name, email, password, and then here is our submit button, which is register. And then from here we will use this, and then to browser, then it will map to the user controller, the method which will execute the post mapping, then the user service to user repository here, and then to MySQL database. This is application architecture, our application architecture for user and admin registration and login. We will use TeamLeaf here as a front end, the backend which includes user controller, user service, user repository as backend. Then the last one is MySQL, which we use for database. Here is the registration page. Both user and admin will use the same registration form to register, and at the time of the login, when they will log into the application, they will have different successful URL. So let me register a name here, both with user, and the second one is admin. So let me register this name, Yasir Yusuf, like this, and then have email like yasiryusuf@gmail.com. So, and then let me just use his first name as the password. So I register this name, it showed registered successfully. I will assign this name as user, and then the second one I will write my name, Aliyu Sahabo Adam, like this, and then I will have email Aliyu Sahabo Adam, and then the same thing, I will use this as password. So I register this again. So let's take our database where we store this registration. Here we have empty unless we refresh it. So here is the name that we have. So I will assign from the database, I will assign this role as user, which is the first one. So let me assign this name admin. This the first name, this the answer we have user, and then the second one we will have admin. So I will apply these changes. Okay, so after applying, let's go back to our login form. So in this login, we will use this form, this single form, to register for both admin and user, and we will have different successful registration, just different successful pages for the login. So let us try the first admin, Aliyu Sahabu adam@gmail.com, and then I use first name as the password. So here I have admin dashboard, and then with welcome Ali Sahabu Adam. Then let's try the one that we assign for the user, which is Yasir Yusuf, like this, and then with the name Yasir. So let's try to access. So here is the user dashboard, user page. Here is the URL, and it is said welcome Yasir Yusuf. This is what we will build in this tutorial, and let's build this together. Now let's create a new project. Now let's go to create Spring Starter project. So here is where we will create a new project. So I will change this name to, the name of the project is Coding Techniques Tutorial. You will have whatever you like here, tutorial. So, and then here we will have user description, user and admin tutorial. Then we will need user and admin login, a registration tutorial, and then the group. Let's leave the group up, screen security, and the name of the package as well. Let's name it admin / user, okay, hyphen user. So this is okay. Then we will go to next. Here I am using the Spring Boot version 3.1, and then I need a face MySQL driver. I will tick MySQL driver, then Spring Security, Spring Data JPA, Team Leaf, then Spring Web. I will also need Spring Boot Dev Tool, which I will use in the project so that I will not be running the application. This Spring Boot Dev Tool will help us in just saving the project without rerunning the project. We will look at it on the browser. So after this, I think it is okay. This is the requirement for the project. Then finish. So this import is getting started. Okay, here is our package coding techniques tutorial. Okay, here is the source. The next thing we will do is to configure my SQL database and run the application. Here is our just initialized Spring Boot project, and here in the source, here is our starter class, and then here is our pom.xml. So here in the pom.xml, in these properties, if you are having issues starting your application, then you will add what I will just paste now, which is MyVinjar plugin version 3.11. If you are using this version and having the issue of starting your application, you will just add this dependency. So the next thing we will do is to configure my SQL database, and then for this we will go to the resources here in the application.properties. So in the application.properties, we will copy this code, which is the configuration code, which I will explain step by step. So here is the configuration code. You can have it copied in your application.properties. So here we have Spring Data Source URL, which specify the JDBC URL, And then we have Spring Data Source username, which specify the username to use when connecting to the database is set. Then we have Spring Data Source password, again specify the password to use when connecting to the database. On here we have this DLL auto Spring JPA Hibernate DLL auto update. Then this property control how Hibernate manages the database schema. And then we have login level Hibernate SQL. This set the level for the Hibernate SQL statement to debug. This means that you will see the detailed SQL statement generated by Hibernate in your logs. That is when we are running our Spring Boot application. So then the last one is the login level of Hibernate type trace. This set the log level for Hibernate type related to information to trace. This provides even more detailed information about Hibernate data type handling. So this is all about this code that we will use to configure our MySQL database. The next thing is creating an entity class and then run our application. So now we will create a JPA entity, which is a user. Then I will close these as well as close this as well. So here let me create a package model. Okay, new package. Then we will have model, and this model I will create a JPA entity, new class, which is user. So this is the class that we will create, and we will annotate this with at entity. Okay, so let's have the field for this class. First we have the private long ID, which will serve as our primary key, and we will annotate this with at ID as usual. And then we have it at generated value, which we will set the strategy to generation type dot auto. Okay, and we will also have a private string email, so then we also need private string password. Okay, so and then we need a field for our role, which is private string role. So this is where we will set the role, either admin or a user. So and then we will have the last one, private string, which is full name. Okay, so this is what we will have. And the next thing, we will generate a constructor with this field: email, password, role, and full name. So then let's go to here, source. Let's have generate constructor using field. But the first thing I will do, I will deselect all and then generate this constructor with no field. And then I will also go to the source generate constructor using field but excluding the ID, just email, password, role, and full name, because ID is our primary key and we will not access it, we will not use it in our to access in this project unless as just as primary key. So we will create this, and then the last thing for this JPA entity is we need a getter and setter, which we will also generate the getter and setter. Generate getters and setters, select all. Okay, so here we generate a getters and setters, but this email have to be unique, so we cannot register with same email. Then I will add a table to specify the table. I don't want to use just user as the name of the table, so name, which is, I will set this name to users, which is beta, and then I also have unique constraint for the email at unique constraint. Then I will set column names to email. So this is what we will have for the model class, and the next thing we will do is to have implementation for backend for our registration. Here we will have the next as the repositories, controller, and service, which is the backend for our registration page, and then we will look at the login page next when dealing with the Spring Security. But let's run the program and check our database. Before, let's check here, there is no any schema, so let's create the schema with the name user. So before then, I will like to access to the application.properties. Here we have a user database, so we have to create the user database in the MySQL workbench, and then here is the icon. Here we create a new schema, click on the create a new schema. So you will have the name here, so you will have to name it user so as to go with our implementation here what we have here. So then let's click on apply, finish. So here is the new schema that we have, but this schema doesn't have any table so far. So when we run this application, we will have an empty table. So let's rerun the application. Run as Spring Boot app. So here is the application is starting. So our application is successfully started on 8080, and here is the generated password for the Spring Security, which we will be using before implementing our own custom security logins page. And then now let's check our database to see if we have a table. So here is a table. You will refresh it first, and then we have a table user, and then let's access this here. So you see we have ID, email, full name, password, role. So all these are set to null because we doesn't have any data. So the next thing is to do is to have service for registration, which is saving our users. backend implementation for the registration. So first thing we will do is to create another package. So package, this is not the model, so not this one. Package, so this will be repositories. Okay, and then in this package we will create new interface, which is user repository. This is the interface, and this will extend as we are dealing with this, then our application is running. That is why we are using Spring Boot Dev tool. So let me have this. We will extend JPA repository, and here we will have the name of our JPA entity, which is user from the model package, and then we'll have this as long, and then we will annotate this with at repository to mark it as a repository. So this is our repository, and then what we will do next is to have our service class. So let's create another package. Let me close this package for the user since we finished, and then let me create another package dot service. Here we have service, so click next, and then this is the empty package. And this empty package, first we will create an interface. So the name of the interface will be UserService, and in this UserService, okay, here is the UserService, and in this UserService we will have a method user, which we will implement in the next class that we will create, which is UserService implementation, UserService. So, and then we will have a class UserDto. Let's import this user from a model. So we have to save it using DTO, which is data transfer object. Let's create a DTO so we can use it here. So let me create another package for the DTO. Okay, and then is here we will create a class UserDto. So here is the class that we have. This class will have the same field as the user, but without ID. It is not a JPA entity. We will use it to transfer our data that we collect on the controller, then to UserDto, from UserDto then to user. So let's go back to the user, which is the model class, and here is the field that we have. So let's use this same field. We will just copy this field to the UserDto, and then we paste it here, and this will have a constructor and then the getters and setters. So let us generate a constructor using all field. Okay, so and then we will also need a getters and setters. We will use this generate getters and setters, select all, then generate. Okay, this is as simple as this. So we have our data transfer object. Then what we will do is then go back to our user service. In this user service, we will use this user DTO. Okay, then we will have user DTO like this with the name save, so that we can save our user information to the user class. So now, and then to database. Now let's go and create inside this service class. Let's close this user and then user DTO to avoid confusion, and then we will focus on the service class. We will implement this interface that we just created. So to implement this interface, we need to create a class, which is new class, and then let name it user service implementation, IMPL. That is okay. So in the user, we have to implement the user service. Okay, now then let's click here, and then it will show us to add unimplemented method. So this is the unimplemented method that we just created. So before going anywhere, we need to have, first thing that we need to have here is the private, our repository that we just create, which is user repository. Here it is. So we need it here, private user repository, so that we can save the user after finishing the implementation of the user save. So we will have user repository, okay, and then user repository. So okay, this is what we have here, and then you see here is our application running after I save, because we are using Spring Dev tool. So, and let's use user here to save our information. We will have user equal to new user. So here we will start passing the value of the constructor that we have here in the user class. We will start with email, password, role, and full name. Let's start with email and password. We will use user DTO email dot get email, okay, and then go for the user DTO dot get password, because we will use user DTO to receive the data. So, and then we will also need user DTO. We have first password email, and then let's check what follow next, then role and full name. User DTO dot get role, and then user DTO dot get the last thing we have is full name. So this is what we have here, and then we will have this method return user repository dot save entity, which is user. So this is what we have in this user service implementation, and then we finish with this. So we have user service, we have then user repository, The next thing is the user controller. That is the 3 layers that we will create in this backend implementation for the registration, which is to save the user in the DB. So we will go back to, then we will here create a class which is controller. Before creating a class, let's have it in a controller package, package.controller. So, and in this controller, let's create a class. Let's name it user controller. User controller. So, and then we will annotate this with @controller. Okay, so all we need here is the registration. We will first have the registration. So we are dealing with the registration. We need get mapping, and we will have the method, and before we will have registration. So this is the registration, and we will have public string get registration page, get registration page, but you will name the method whatever you like. So I am naming this just to be very clear and specific. So, and this method will just return the name of the HTML page. The name of the HTML page that we will create will be register. Just the name will be register. So this is the name, and the next thing is post mapping, which is add post mapping, add post mapping, and we will have the same here, registration. So we will need a method again, public save user. We will use this to save user. So the name will be save user, and then it will return the same page. So let's copy it here. Okay, and we need to define a string. Sorry, this is what we will have here, and we need model attribute. Model attribute user, and then we will set it on the user Dto. That is where we will receive it to the user. Here is the class user Dto, and then we'll have user Dto. So we need the service, the service class. We need the service class here, which is @authority, and then we need private user service. So we will just talk to the interface, since we have the implementation in the project. So no need to talk to the user service implementation. So we will use this to save the, we'll use user service to save user Dto dot save user Dto. So that is not the only thing we need with the save user. After saving the user DTO, we need this to tell us that it saved successfully. So we need a model. Here is the model. So here is a model. Then we will use this model and then to add the attribute. So let the name of the attribute be message, the name of the view to message, and then what it will display is that we need to save registered. After registration, we need registered successfully. So this is what we have, and then let's close this. So this is what we have here, and then in the tutorial we will need this add model attribute for the user DTO. Since in our form we will have the user, we will have this same thing here. So this is the implementation of our backend for the registration. Okay, we have UserService implementation, and then user controller. So this is the implementation for our registration. The next thing is the front end, which we will use TeamLeaf to have this register page. So let's go next. Now we will deal with our front end for the registration. So we will create a HTML file with this name register. So before then, in this user implementation service, we forgot to annotate this class with @service. Okay, this is okay. Then let's go back to the user controller. For the front end for the registration, we need HTML with this. So let's create new HTML file. So here we need HTML file, then the name will be register like this. Okay, it's okay. So here is the HTML file that we just create, but I will use ChatGPT to generate the HTML code for us, so it is very easy without writing a lot of code. So here is the what it generated. Let's have the question. I asked the code that generate me a HTML and CSS registration form with this color. The color is 45B6FE, and then primary color, this is the primary color, and then the secondary color is 0E2433. Then at the last I asked that including div for message, so it generated this HTML file. Then if you have it generated a different style for you, you can have different color, it doesn't matter, but make sure you have the specification, match our specification. You will see how we can change this. So if you doesn't have access to ChatGPT, I will have the link of this code in my video description. So let's copy this code and then go back to this and then paste. So before going anywhere, let's check out what we have just created. So we will use this password to access before having our implementation. This is generated by the Spring Security. So let's go to new tab. localhost. The name will be username is user default, so we will access it like this, and then we will use our registration. So this is what we have, and this is what we have created. Then we will change this to match what we want. So let's go back to our HTML file and start. So the first thing, we will have to create a CSS file so that we can have it in the different static. So let's create new CSS file with the name styles.css. Okay, here we have style.css, and then let's go back to register and copy the code for the CSS. Let's code this and then have it inside the style. It's even better. So, and let's use the link to access. After using link to access, we will check if it is working. Link. First we will have rel, which is equal to style sheet like this, and then we will have href, teamleaf href, and then let's have it as, we will have this attribute so that we can access one level up, then to CSS, and then styles.css. Okay, so let's check if we have this working correctly. Okay, it is working. We refresh it and we have the same thing. So let's go next with the implementation. This is the registration form, and then first let's have this attribute for the action and the method. So here we will have th action, and this action will be set to the name of our registration, which is at registration. Okay, and then we will have this method post is okay, and then we will also need role, which is equal to form. The last thing we need is the user object, which we create th object, which is set to this attribute. Then we will have a user. Where we get this user, some may be curious to know where we get this user, and in the user controller here we have this as our model attribute. So this is the user that we have here. So, and this will be, we will duplicate this. So we have here full name, so we will duplicate this. We need full name, so, and then we need a placeholder, which is enter your full name, so this is, we have enter your full name, and this is what we have here, text type, and then the next thing here we need email, and this text type will be changed to email, and then the same thing here, email name, email. So, and we need also a placeholder for this. So we will copy it to this and then change to enter your email, and this will also change to email. Okay, so now the last thing is password, and which we will just change this, enter your password, so don't forget that here we have a message, div message, and then we have to bring this message here inside this container or at the top. This message will happen or will display if, with a condition, if we will have if here, if message is not equal to null. So some may ask which message. Here is the message. If this is not equal to null, it will register, it will show registered successfully. This is a simple implementation. So how it will show, this is the attribute. Let's add the attribute that will show registered successfully, and then here we will add the name message. So this is the implementation for the message, the div class which started here. So and the next thing here, we change this type to email. So we need to go back to the CSS and add the email that we just. So here is where we can add the email, because the type doesn't include the email in the CSS. So email, and then you have to delete this. So this is what we have. Let's check our code, refresh. So this is how it become. Now it is making sense, and this div disappeared unless if it is if registration successfully. Now this label, we have to change this label. It is not good looking. So let's go back to the CSS where we define a label. So here in the CSS, so let's check where we define a label. So this is where we define a label. We have to change and then add text align to left. Okay, this is the changes that we made. We will do, let's check. With the help of Spring Dev tool, we don't need to rerun the application. Here the text is aligned to. Okay, now let's check. Here we have a div for message. If the registration is success, and then here we have the attribute for the form, which is action is set to registration post, and the role is set to form. So the last thing is that we will use the th field to map the data that we have to the object user. So we need th field equal to, okay, this is what we will have, th field equal to, and then we will put this star, then we will add full name. So the same thing we will have for the others here. Okay, we put that, but this will set to email. Okay, and then the same thing we will add for the password and change the name to password. So password. Okay, this is the implementation that we have. Now let's refresh the page and try to submit a data to our database. So let me add the name Aliyu Sahabo Adam, like this, and then the email as well, Aliyu Sahabo Adam @gmail.com. Okay, here is the email, and then let me use this as password. So okay, let me register this. So we are having issue. Let's check what is happening here. It is showing that this user repository is null, cannot invoke admin. So let's check the problem from here. So we have the problem from here, cannot invoke admin user repository self auth because this user repository is null. So let's check in the user service implementation. The problem we are having is that we did not annotate this with @autowired, so it will have null. So this is the problem is fixed. Now let's rerun the program. So this is the only problem and we have fixed this. Now let's check our, okay, so now we have new password. So let's go back to the local host login, and then we have user, then paste the password. So we will need registration. Okay, so let's try to submit again, Aliyu Sahabo Adam, like this, and then we will have Aliyu Sahabo Adam @gmail.com, and then let me copy this as password. So registered. So we have registered successfully. So now our code is working. Let's check the DB. Previously, now we doesn't have any data in the database. So let's refresh this. Okay, so this is what we have. We have our data without the role, and the password is not even encoded. So the next thing we will look how we will implement the login features using Spring Security by overriding the Spring Security default implementation. To start with the Spring Security, now we have to implement two interfaces, UserDetails and then UserDetailsService. So now we will start with the UserDetails. Now let's create, in the service class we will create a class. The name of the class class is CustomUserDetails. So here is the class created, and this class will implement UserDetails interface. UserDetails interface. Here is the UserDetails interface, and let's have add unimplemented method. Okay, so this is the method that we have and the contract of the UserDetails with Spring Security understand. So now let's create a private user before starting implementing the method. And now let's create constructor with this field, generate constructor using the field user. Okay, so now let's start implementing this method step by step. So we will start with this collection. Okay, and in this collection we will return list of roles. So I have to delete this list, and there is a method list of roles. We will pass a lambda expression which will return a list of role. We will use this variable user.get role. So this will return a list of role. We finish with this, and then the next thing is that the get password, and we will use this to get the password, user.get password, as well as the username. In this case the username is email, user.get email. So, and then we will look at also this for method, which is account non-expired. Yes, because we don't want the account to expire, so we will set it to true. So we will set all this method to true. Is account non-lock? Yes, we will set it to true. Is credential non-expired? Yes, we will set this to true. Public boolean is enabled. Yes. So because we don't want to disable the account. So this is what we have so far, and for the user details. And then we will create UserDetailsService to use the user details. Okay, now let's create CustomUserDetails, a class CustomUserDetailsService. So, and then click finish. So we will annotate this class with @service. Okay, so and this class will implement UserDetailsService. Okay, and there is a method that we have to implement, a single method load user. So it will load the user based on the information that we have. So let's have private user repository. We will use user repository to check for the user repository. find by email, so that we will find the user by email. So we will have a method here, user find by email. Okay, so you have to have this convention like this, because having this with small letter this bar, you will have an error. So this is find by email. The interface uses this naming convention, so you have to follow the convention. So we'll have this method and then have to string email, where we will pass the email. So then let's go back to our custom user detail service and have implement this load user. So we will use this user from our model package, and then use user. So user equal to user repository, and then access the method that we just create, find by email, and we will pass this username. Okay, and it will check the username if exists, and if it does not exist, now let's pass a validation. User, if user equal to null, so we will throw username not found exception, throw new username, user username not found exception. If the user exists, we will return the user details class, that we just create this. Okay, and let's return this, return. So let me delete this, return user custom new user details, and then here we will pass the user in the constructor. So custom user details. So let's import this class. Let me call the class again custom user details. It's custom, here is custom user detail, and we pass the user. So and this class will get the information. It will get the role, the password, the email from the user that we have here. So and then there is something again that we need a method for the full name. So let's have a method public string and then full name. name it get full name. So this is better, and then let's return user dot get full name. So this is the implementation of UserDetailsService and then UserDetails interface. Okay, so now the next thing we will do is to go back to UserService implementation that we create earlier. Since that we are now dealing with the Spring security, we will have to encode this password so that we will not have a plain like what we have here inside our database. So now let's go back to we will use the private at authority. We will use private password encoder interface, have password encoder. So we will use this interface, and here inside this interface password encoder we have the method encode. Inside this encode we will pass our user.getPassword, which is the password, and let's pass it here. So this is what we will have here, and then the next thing we will create a package for the security configuration, so that we will have the bin for this password encoder as well as the authorization method, which is security filter chain. So now let me create a new package, and the new package will be configurations. So okay, here in the configuration I will create a class security config. So let's name this config, security config. So in this security config I will annotate this class with add configuration, and as well as add enable web security. Here is the annotation, enable web security. So here the first thing we will do is to have a bin of a password encoder, which is public static password encoder. Let's name the method password encoder as well, and this method will return BCrypt password encoder, a class which implements the interface password encoder. We have three classes that implement the interface. We have BCrypt password encoder, and we also have BCrypt password encoder. Okay, and there are other classes that also implement the password encoder, but I will use BCrypt password encoder. Here is supposed to be new BCrypt password encoder. Okay, so and then we will annotate this with admin. Okay, the next thing we will do is to have the security filter chain, which will intercept the request and check for the authorization. And first let me annotate the method with admin, and then have the method under this public security Here we will have public security filter chain, security filter chain. So we'll have security filter chain, and then this method will throw an exception. So let's have throw exception here, throw exception, and then we need a parameter of HTTP security, HTTP security, and let the name of the variable be HTTP. So now we will start implementing this method step by step. First, we will disable CSRF, but in this implementation we will use a new implementation of the method HTTP security with lambda expiration. So let's access this HTTP CSRF. Here is the implementation with the lambda expiration. This means cross-site request forgery, and we will disable this. Okay, so let me use the variable name as C to disable. Then we will use C's to disable. Okay, this is the first step. Okay, and the next thing is that we will use authorize HTTP request to authorize our request. So let me access this authorize HTTP request. Here is the implementation with the lambda expiration, and I prefer to use it, and I will use a variable name as request. So let's have request. So we will access this step by step. First, we need a request matcher. Request matcher of screen pattern. So we will use, here we will pass admin page, which we will create. So admin page, and then let's have also another request matcher, but I have to permit this, and then I will have another request matcher string, so which is for the user page. Okay, request matcher for the user page, and I will permit this for now before we change the implementation. So I will also have another for the registration request matcher. In this case, we will have the request matcher for the registration. Okay, so then the next thing, we will have it together here with our CSS that we define here, so that it will be accessible. Our CSS. So here we have our CSS, so we will also permit this. Okay, this is what we have here, and then we will set the any request let access any request authenticated, apart from this request that we have authenticated. So this is what we have here. So, and we will use form login again to have implementation. For the form login, we will use the lambda expiration one, the one which accept the lambda expiration, and let name it form. So we will have form here. Let access this a method. First, the method we need is login page. So we will set this to login, which we will create in the front end, and then we will need also login processing URL. I will also have this as login as well. So the next thing is that we will have URL successful handler. We will create a class which will handle this, but for now let me use URL default successful URL. So for now I will just use this slash, then permit all. So this is for the form login, and then we will have another implementation for the logout. Then let go and have it like this. Logout here is the one with the lambda expiration. So let go like this. Then we will use name form as well here. So let access. As long as we have logout, we need to invalidate the HTTP session. So we will use invalidate HTTP session. We will set it to true. And also, as long as we log out, we need to clear the authentication. So we have to use clear authentication to true. Okay, so and then we will have logout request matcher. Let's set the URL to logout. The logout request matcher, and here we will pass a class new and path matchers. We will have the URL new and path like this, new and path request matcher. So not this one, we will use the one with the single, which will receive login. Okay, now the logout successful URL, we will pass the logout successful URL logout successful URL. So we will pass here login like this, and then have this question mark as well as logout. Okay, this is what we have here, and then the last thing is to permit all, to permit the request. So this is what we will have in this, and then return the HTTP like this. HTTP dot build, HTTP dot build. So this is what we have. What we will change the implementation after having the class for CustomUserDetailsSuccessHandler we will permit this to only admin users. We will also permit these to only users, so which are not admin, the users that are not admin. And here we will change this to success handler and pass the class that we have just implemented. So in this class configuration, we have another method, so which is, let's have the implementation of the method configure. Let's have auto-wired before then public configure this. Okay, this configure, we will use the authentication manager builder, authentication manager builder class with this variable auth. You will name the variable as you wish. This will also throw exception, and then let's have this auth dot, we will have auth dot user details. Okay, so inside this user details, we will pass the custom user details service. Let's have at auto-wired custom user details service and the variable name custom user details service. So we will pass this class inside this method. So we will have custom user details service, and for the password encoder, we will pass the password encoder method that we just created. So, and then let's close this. So let's check what we have. We will have this as void, so it will not return anything. Void. So this is the implementation we have so far for the security backend, and what is remaining is the authentication success handler. And the next thing we will do before having the authentication success handler is we will have the front end for the login. Now, before going to the implementation for our front end, I notice we have to correct this to logout. If you have it as login, it is we are dealing with this logout. You have to correct this to logout. And then in the custom user details service, we have to annotate this with at auto-wired, this private user repository. So, and this is all for this. And then you have to create a controller here in this class to handle a login. In it, public string login, and this will return just a login page. Okay, return just a login page. Then we will create the login page. So, and then let's have add get mapping for the login. So for the login, we won't have the post mapping. This is what we will have for the login. So now let's create a new template HTML file, and in this HTML file this will have to be login. So here is the login, and we will use this our register form to have our login. We will just change a little so that to match our login. So here is our login. Let's start the changing from here. Here will be login, and here is a diff message, and diff message will be if we have error login the application, we will have this invalid username or password, the message invalid username or password. Okay, we'll have this, and then we have to duplicate this. This will be error param.error. So, and we have to duplicate this. So in this case, let's have another param.logout if the user log out. Okay, so let's have this as logout successfully. So, and this will change to the user admin and user login page. Okay, we will also have to change this to login, and we don't need this. So far this is the implementation, and let's go next. So in this case we don't need this. Let's delete this. So here we need to write username as the email. We have to delete this as well. We don't need this. We need username here, and as well username here. So we will change this to enter. We will leave it as email, and then if we leave this as email, we don't have problem. For this we will only remove this. So here is what we have, and this is the implementation for the login. So, and then let's go to the browser and register another user. So before registering another user, let me delete the user that we have currently in the database. So we need to delete row. So and apply this. So let me go back to this. I will use the same name to register Aliyu Sahabo Adam like this, and then have the email as Aliyu Sahabo Adam at gmail.com. So I will register using this. So registered successfully. Let's check the database and see what we have. Okay, let's check the DB, the users table, to check. So So let's the workbench again. Let's access the workbench again and check the user that we have just saved. Okay, here we have root. Okay, and then let's check the database. So here is the user, and we have encoded BCrypt password. So let's log in to test our login page. Here is our login page using email aliusahabuadam@gmail.com, and then we will have a password of Ali that I have earlier. So it registered successfully because we have this part in the security and we don't have the controller for this part. So now we will correct this to each user. We will check if the user is admin or just a normal user and give and take him to the successful URL. Okay. So now we finish with this implementation. The next thing is that we will create CustomUserDetailsService, which we will redirect different users to different URL. Okay, now let's create new class in the service, CustomUserDetailsService. And this class will implement AuthenticationSuccessHandler, and we have a method on authentication success. Here is the method we implement, and then we will use var and then roles, which is, let me name it to authorities equal to, we will use authentication variable to access get authorities, and then the next thing we will do is use this as roles equal to, we will use these authorities that we have authorities, and then use the stream, and then we will map this to get a string of authorities. Here let me use r as the lambda variable, r.get authority. Okay, let's find the user, find face. So this is what we have here, and remember this is what we have here is an optional, and then let's go and have if roles dot, let's have or else. Okay, this or else will filter the element inside the optional, and then let's say if equals so if equals admin, like this. If it is equal to admin, okay, so then we will have response. We will use this response servlet, HTTP servlet response. We need response dot send redirect. send redirect, which is the URL is, let's name it admin page, which we will create it admin page, and then let's have else if we will have to copy this and change it to user. Else if equal to user, then we will send redirect to user. Let's change it to here user page. Okay, this is what we will have. Or else let's send it to arrow. It will return arrow. So we will send redirect. To avoid, let's copy this and paste. We'll have arrow. Okay, this is our custom success handler, and then we will use this in the security configuration. Let's use this and in the security configuration. Okay, we need this at authority. Okay, we need custom success handler, equal to success handler. Okay, and here is where we will pass this in the form login. Instead of this default successful handler, we will pass the success handler. Inside this success handler, we will pass this custom success handler variable. Okay, now let's save. So in this case here, admin page, we will not permit to all users, we will only permit to admin. So here we'll have has authority to admin. Okay, we are not permitting this, as well as this we will not permit to all users. This will be has authority user. So this is the implementation that we have. This has authority user, so that our user can never access the admin page with this implementation. So the next thing we will do is we will develop the front end for the admin and user page. So let's go to controller class before, and we need a handler for the user page and admin page. So here we need a get mapping. I will pass user page here. Okay, and then let's have public string user. So let's create this public string user page. So okay, we will return a string of the page, which is user page. We will create a page user. So, and then at the same thing, let's duplicate this for admin, and we will change the method to admin page. Okay, and here we will have admin, and this will return admin. So this is not just the only implementation, and what we will have, we will need a user details here, but before then we need to have our front end. So I did earlier in the here we have me access the page again that will generate admin and home for our application. So let's check here. So it is processed. Okay, here is the admin page that it generates, admin and user page. Okay, with the color that we have used earlier in the registration form. So let's copy this and create a HTML page. First one is the user, and then we will have this. And then the second one is admin. So let's create new admin here, new as well. So let's click finish. So, and we will also paste this, but the implementation will be different. Here is the user bot, and let's change it to admin dashboard, and for the user I will change to the capital letter user. Okay, this is what we have here. So we will use the principal interface to give the name of the user here, and then with this attribute we will have user dot get full name method. Okay, and we will copy this attribute the same to the admin page. So we'll have this. So let's go and have the implementation for the admin and user using UserDetails. So we will go back to the UserDetails. Before, let's check the UserDetails, CustomUserDetails. Okay, this is the method get full name that we have used in the user and admin, which will return the name of the user. And in our controller class, let's go back to the controller class. We will use UserDetailsService to load the username. So at AuthOware UserDetailsService, UserDetailsService. So, and here is our front end for the user page. We need a model and a principal interface as the parameter. Model here, and the principal interface, which is principal. Okay, this is okay. We need this at the admin page also. So let's have the implementation for this, and we will store the user on UserDetails class, UserDetails interface, UserDetails. Okay, so we need user details. Okay, using the principal interface here, we will first use the user details service to access the load username, and then here we will pass the principal interface, which is principal.getName. So, and then what we will do is to model.addAttribute user, then we are passing this user details here. Okay, this is the implementation we will have here, and as well as in this page also. Okay, so this is the model view that we have used to access the get user.get full name here, and as well as here. So let's save the project and then save another user. So here we are having an error CustomUserDetailsService in your configuration. Let me check. We did not annotate it with a service as I think. Let's go to, we did not annotate this with add service. We have to annotate the CustomUserDetailsService with add service. So now we don't have the problem again. So this is the final topic in this project, and now we will test the project, and then let's check registration. I will save the name Yasir Yusuf here, and then we will have Yasir Yusuf at gmail.com. So I will use this as the password. So here we have registered this successfully, and then the next thing we have to do is to check our database. Here inside the database we have two users, Aliyu Sahabo and Yasir Yusuf. So let's name this Aliyu as admin, and then this as a user, and then apply the changes. So we will redirect to different URL. First, let me access this Aliyu and see. We set it as admin, and this we set it to user. Let me log in. First, for the admin, Aliyu is the admin and Yasir is the user. Let me access Aliyu Sahabo Adam at gmail.com, and then the password is Aliyu. So this is the admin. Let's try to log in. Here we have welcome Aliyu Sahabo Adam. Okay, so this is admin dashboard, and then let's check the other name, Yasir Yusuf. Yasir Yusuf. Okay, and then with the name Yasir, password. So here is the user dashboard. Welcome. So the last thing that we will do is the logout. So we have to log out the user if we entered, so that because we have the implementation of the logout. So let's go back to the, okay, so in this case let's have span element span. Okay, and this span we will have a security authorize equal to is authenticated. Make sure you spell it properly, and then inside this we need a link attribute, which is a and then inside this link we will have first teamleaf teamleaf equal to, we'll have this attribute, then our link /logout. Okay, this is what we will have here, and then we will pass logout here. So this is what we will have here, and then let's copy this to the admin page as well. So let's check if our implementation is working. Let's go back to try to access. So here we have the welcome UserService, but we did not have this. Let's save it. Okay, so let's check again, but let's make sure there is no error. Okay, let's check again. Yes. Okay, let's check. Yes, registered. So we are having error in this. Let's check what is the error. So okay, let's go back to fail to evaluate expression is authenticate. Okay, the reason is that it's not is authenticate, is that is authenticated. So as well we will change this to is authenticated. Okay, let's go back to the user and try to access us again by following the password. So we have logout here. Let's try. We have logout successfully, as well as for the admin. Let's aliusahabaadam@gmail.com and then have aliu like this. So let's check. Here is admin dashboard and then logout. So this is our final tutorial on this, and I hope you will subscribe my channel for more on Spring Boot, Spring Security and other programming languages. Make sure you subscribe for more videos. Thank you very much.